Today we are making the cutest, most unique looking cheesecake you've ever seen. It's a Basque-style cheesecake made in an air fryer. Super awesome for a bunch of reasons, aside from the fact that it looks like an incredible, almost like a creme brulee with its dark blistered top. And it makes two, so you can share them with your neighbors or your family, and they make this really adorable size. Like, look at this slice of cheesecake. This is the most adorable slice of cheesecake you've ever seen. I'll show you how to make it. So the first thing to think about when making your Basque-style cheesecake is what pan you're going to use. The recipe calls for a 9-inch springform pan, but since we're baking in the air fryer today, you probably want to think about a smaller pan option unless you have a really big air fryer and you can fit this whole pan. So today we're using two 6-inch pans, which fits half of the batter perfectly. It makes these adorable mini cheesecakes, and this fits really nicely in your air fryer. So the next thing you want to think about is how you're going to prepare the pan. Basque-style cheesecake traditionally has this really rustic exterior, and you crumple up the parchment and you line the pan with the parchment, so when it comes out of the oven you have this kind of like burnt shreds of parchment around the edges, and it has this really organic look to it. So I'll show you how to do that with one of our pans. Start with a full sheet of parchment. You need at least a 12-inch square, and then just crumple it up. This will make it easier to lie flat in the pan. So uncrumple it. This is going to give the sides texture and also prevent sticking. Press it into the edges so that it overhangs the sides. So this cheesecake is going to have the more rustic look to it that's very traditional Basque style. The other option, if you prefer more of a clean look like a traditional cheesecake, you can cut a parchment round to fit in the bottom and then also line the sides. If you're going to do that, put your pan on your sheet of parchment, trace it, and then use scissors to cut out the round. Once you have your parchment round, you can lay it in the bottom, and then you can choose to leave the sides unlined if you want a golden brown exterior on your cheesecake, or if you want to see that creamy white interior, then you can make a collar. Basically just cut strips of parchment that we'll use to line the sides, make them at least 2 to 3 inches thick. So this pan will give you a very nice clean edge, where this pan will give you a really crumpled, kind of organic looking exterior. So choose your fancy or do one of each. Now we're going to make our cheesecake batter, and this comes together so quickly, like literally 5 minutes. There's only 5 ingredients. We are going to combine sugar, eggs, cream cheese, and a little bit of salt, and that's it. We are going to use a food processor, which makes this really silky and smooth. If you don't have a food processor, you can still make this recipe. Just leave your ingredients out at room temperature so that the cream cheese is nice and soft and won't be lumpy, and you can mix it in a stand mixer. So it's getting really silky smooth. It might take a little bit longer to mix if your cream cheese is cold. Otherwise, this takes a couple minutes. Get a spatula so that you can scrape down the sides about halfway through, make sure everything is evenly incorporated. You'll hear it when it starts to become smooth. Oh, look at how silky smooth that is. Oh, good thing we stir. This is why you stir halfway through, because you'll discover lumps of cream cheese. All right, let's see what it looks like. Beautiful. All right, this batter is looking super smooth. It almost looks like pastry cream. It's so velvety and silky looking. If you have 2 6-inch pans, you can divide the batter between each. Or if you only have one pan, it's okay. There's no rush to get this right in the oven. It can sit while the first one bakes, and then you can use the same pan for the second batch. If you want to be super precise, you can weigh the amount of batter that goes into each pan. It's about 700 grams to get perfectly half. Then to make sure that the cheesecake has an even top, just give it a little bit of a shake so that it levels out, and then a tap to make sure there's no bubbles caught in the bottom. Today we're using a 6-quart air fryer, which is a really nice size. So turn it on, press air fry. You want to make sure it's at the maximum temperature. For this device, it's 400 degrees, and press start, and then let it preheat. One of the awesome things about air fryers is it takes like 3 minutes to preheat to its maximum temperature. So one of the reasons why I love making the Basque-style cheesecake in an air fryer, this will be ready to go in just a couple minutes. So our air fryer is preheated and our batter is ready to go. So just put it in the basket of your air fryer. I leave the rack on the bottom. You can do either. You can leave it in or take it out. I just leave it in because it's easier. I'll bake it for about 10 minutes and then we'll take a look at it to see how dark the top is. At that point, we can cover it if we want to prevent it from getting any darker, and then we'll bake it for another 10-ish minutes until it's done. And I'll tell you more about what to look for when it's done in a minute. So our cheesecake has been baking for 10 minutes in the air fryer, so we'll take it out to check the color of the top. Wow. It is amazing how much it transforms in 10 minutes. So the color is pretty dark in the center. It has some lighter spots around the outside. Because I don't want it to get too dark, I'm going to cover it at this point before I put it back in to continue baking. And you can cover it with foil, or you can use a larger pan that will fit over your pan that's baking, as long as it fits in your air fryer. So I will just slide this in, and we'll let it bake until it reaches 185 degrees. Slide it over, a nice little cover there. And I'll check it in another 8 to 10 minutes. And this way it won't be too dark when it's done. So our cheesecake has been baking for about 22 minutes. I baked it with a cover on it about halfway through. Let's check it out. Oh, it looks beautiful. Wow, it's just amazing how quickly it transforms. So let's take a temperature reading before we remove it, just to make sure it's done. So this is a great opportunity to use a high quality, super fast instant read thermometer. A digital thermometer is most accurate. So if you insert the tip about 1 inch into the cheesecake, 1 inch from the edge, it should just barely read 185 degrees. Perfect. We're just at 185 degrees. So this is done. So I'll remove it from the air fryer and let it cool. So once you've removed your cheesecake from the air fryer, put it on a rack to cool for about 30 to 60 minutes. This will allow the cake to cool and set up a little bit, so it will be less delicate once you remove it from the pan. This was the first cheesecake I baked. This has the crumpled parchment look to it, and it has been cooling, so it's ready to come out of the pan. And one of the great things about the parchment is you can use it as handles to just lift it swiftly out of the pan. So make sure you have a spot for it to go, and then just lift and put it on a cooling rack. So once your cheesecake is at room temperature, you can serve it, or you can chill it if you want more of that traditional cheesecake texture. It's a little bit cold on the palate. It's really nice and creamy. I love the way this looks, a lot more than I actually thought I was going to with the parchment. This would make such a nice, interesting centerpiece for a dessert. These are great for gifting since you have 2 of them. I'm going to put this on a plate. We'll pull back the parchment, we'll slice into it and take a bite. It slices like warm butter. It is, oh my God, amazing. So it helps to use a sharp knife. I like this serrated knife. And let's see what happens. Oh, baby. You can see that it is just like custardy and soft and beautiful. Like, it has structure to it. It's not ribboning out like it's melted cheese, but you can tell it's much softer than normal cheesecake. So this is our other cheesecake that has been cooling for about an hour, and so it's ready to come out of the pan. It's a little bit trickier to get this cake that doesn't have the crumpled edges out of the pan, but I'll show you how to do it with ease. So loosen the edges with a butter knife or a spatula. Just make sure there's no parts that are sticking. Get yourself a relatively flat plate. You're just going to put one hand on the bottom and one hand on the top, and then flip it over swiftly, and then remove it. I'm gonna grab another plate to invert it, and I'll do the same thing to get it right side up. One hand on the bottom, one hand on the top, flip it. Oh, beautiful. Nice looking cheesecake. And then you get the joy of peeling off the parchment along the side to reveal the really beautiful white creamy sides. This is such a dramatic, visually stunning cheesecake. Like, wow. Oh, I've been waiting to taste this. So creamy. It's not too sweet. This is a cheesecake that non-cheesecake people will love. It's light, it's fluffy, it's not too sweet, it's creamy. You're gonna love this. But this is definitely the standout dessert to make in an air fryer. It's destined to be baked in an air fryer with its blistered top, its creamy interior. It's so beautiful and it tastes just as good as it looks. Make it for the next occasion, share it, and people will totally love it. You can find the recipe at kingarthurbaking.com, search for Basque-Style Cheesecake. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna eat the rest of this slice now. You probably are dying for yours too.